All right, guys, so I'm going to show you what my journal looks like because I usually don't share this a lot, but I wanted you guys to see how art doesn't have to be anything fancy. They have done a couple of studies. One study determined that your brain starts to feel better after 8 minutes of art. And that study was done with coloring books and coloring pencils, like those adult coloring books, you know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be high tech or anything beautiful, but you are shooting for 8 to 15 minutes spent in your book. So this is colored pencils that I did. The repetitive motion is something that actually eases tension and anxiety. So I want you guys to think about repetitive shapes. If you guys have Crayola watercolors, you know, in the kit from when you were in elementary school, this is a Crayola painting. This is the brown and the black mixed with some white. And then this is black up here. So the paler part here is just dry brushed. Repetitive strokes, repetitive motion. This is done with crayons or oil pastel. And then each one is making a different shape. This one did take a little bit longer because I wanted to get those beautiful rich colors. I worked on perspective. I worked on vibrant colors. This one is watercolor and the oil pastel together. This one, I took a bunch of lids off of jars and traced them and made the circles, and then I went over the circles with lots of different things to kind of create that effect like bubbles. This is working in wash. So you're really focusing on water and watercolor. I wanted to do repetitive shapes. And then I made a statement for myself, something to remind myself, something that's gonna make me feel better or feel stronger, or a mantra, any of that stuff. That's all things that are good for your brain. Again, this is a plan for a vase. This is watercolor and oil pastel. You can also do watercolor and crayon and get the same effect. Just those really basic things that most people have. Some of you guys have in your junk drawer, right? So I want you guys to think about a very small amount of time every day, 8 to 15 minutes. I want you guys to keep track of your emotions and your thoughts and what we're going through together right now. And then if you want to share your work, my email is always open. You can email me with whatever you're working on and check in, and I will help you. And this is just a Sharpie marker. You know, no big deal, nothing super fancy. I invented like little weirdo animal characters, you know, like Dr. Seuss, with a Sharpie marker, and you guys can totally do that too. So as I'm flipping through the book, if anything is really appealing to you, this is a color study from my mother-in-law's garden. These are her dahlias. She planted these bad boys. But if any of this is striking to you and you're like, that one, that's the one I want to do a video on the process or how it went, you guys let me know, okay? So this one I wanted to capture texture with a Sharpie marker. So again, it's those repetitive motions, easy peasy. And then remember how I did this? This was those lids from jars. You can do this too, and I can show you how. This one I actually used a stencil over and over and over and over again, and then these are actually watercolor pencils. So they're a little bit more fancy than what some of you guys probably have in the drawer. This is carefully chosen colors out of the watercolor palette, and then I went over the whole thing with the black and a toothbrush and splattered to give it more like richness and more texture. And again, this is almost like the idea of a Zentangle. Really tight, small marks made over and over and over again. So this is the circle idea, and then I went in the background and I filled it in with black paint. This is really intense, first person, 1 point perspective. So this is a lot of ruler work, which we worked on at school. And again, repetitive marks, repetitive motion. This is watercolor with a brush. And I'm pretty sure it's all one brush. I worked on cute animals that look like they're having, you know, sort of like a British tea party with their school, you know, colors. This is 2 brushes, so these small marks here, that was a very fine little brush, and then the bigger flat brush, a wide flat brush for the rest of it. This was really, really wet. I soaked the page with water, and then all of these little pieces grew out of that. Again, texture with a toothbrush. Self-portrait. Plans for future pottery. All right, so this, the black that you see is all oil pastel, and then all these rich oranges are a watercolor put in there. This is all oil pastel. This side has white blended in, this side has black blended in. You can kind of achieve the same look if you use crayons. All right, working on roundness of shapes. Working on positive and negative space, repeated shapes. This is just pencil. Then I started working on portraiture for you guys. Then I worked on a little bit of color theory, a little bit of weird forced moon perspective. All right, and then I worked on some color theory in here. All right, so today I just want to work on the emotion behind color. All right, so I want you guys to think about a color that makes you feel happy. I've got 2 different watercolor palettes out. This is my splurge, let's call it. It was kind of an expensive present to myself for my birthday one year. And then this is what my children at home use. This is just a really basic palette. And the benefit of this cheap palette is it actually has kind of a high talc or chalk content. So you can use this palette on black paper and have pretty unique and wonderful results. So as you guys saw, I put down a field of water. And then I want to think about summer and sunshine and being at the beach where the sun is so bright. You have to kind of close your eyes against the glare. All right, and I'm diffusing this outer edge with some water. I'm using a really big brush. Lay down lots and lots of water. So what are some other colors that are really common when you're at the beach? I'm thinking blue. So I'm going to mix a little bit of that darker blue into this lighter blue. So now my palette is starting to get kind of activated here. And I'm going to put this right into the water that I laid down on that page. And I want to think about that feeling that I had when I was at the beach. I want to think about how happy I was, what my feet felt like in the sand, all those happy memories that I had. So the water sort of starts to get like a bluey green. I am painting the colors that feel like my memory of the beach. And once you start to feel like you're getting there, the cool thing is your memories are yours alone. In certain times in our lives, we feel like we don't have any control over what's going on around us. And sometimes that actually is true. You don't have control over what's going on around you. But you know what I can control? I can control this paper. And I can lay down my feelings here.